Right, look, let's talk about the biggest story of the day, and undoubtedly this is this police officer who has actually, since I've been in the office, actually been suspended, taken off frontline duty yesterday, but has now been suspended by Greater Manchester Police after footage was shared on social media showing a suspect, a man, being kicked in the head and then stamped on by an officer at Manchester Airport. Now, we haven't got video footage of what happened beforehand. What we understand is his armed police response unit at Manchester Airport were called to this situation. It had already kicked off, trying to arrest these men. It was a violent incident. These men were undoubtedly violent. 3 police officers had to be taken to hospital. 1, a female police officer, had a broken nose. You're resisting arrest. Frankly, you're going to get what's coming to you. Frankly, you don't get, you know, police officer tells you to, you know, stand, you know, lie on the floor or face the wall. That's what you do. Lots of claims about, you know, whether it was race is an issue because it's white police officers and apparently Muslim men. No, I'm sorry, I'm not into any of that. The police are there's a violent incident, there's some altercation, police are trying to arrest you, you resist arrest, things are going to turn nasty. And I defend the police dealing with people. They don't know how dangerous they're going to be. We've already, at this point, got a woman police officer with a broken nose. These are, you know, these are dangerous times, and we should be on the side of our police officers. However, once a man, and if you've been watching the video, if you're watching us on our YouTube or connected device on our page, you will be able to see the video. And it is absolutely shocking. Once the man, he's the man in blue shorts and blue top, once he's on the floor, he is being tasered already. He is on the floor. He lifts his head up. He gets a kick in the head from this officer, who then stamps on his head. Now, it's a concrete floor. You kick someone in the head, or you stamp on their head on a concrete floor, there is every possibility you could break the skull and they could die. I'm sorry, there's every possibility of that. That is not, at that point, self-defence, is it? Is that in any way justifiable?
No. No, and if you look at the clip just prior to that, he's also, the person on the floor has had a knee to his kidney, which we all know, that hurts.
I've got no issue with that. If he was fighting with a police officer...
Exactly. He's had that.
Hard luck, mate.
And then he gets kicked in the head. Now, the police had a hard job to do at the beginning, no doubt about it. There can be no justification for stamping on somebody's head when they are restrained on the floor.
When they're already subdued.
They aren't a risk at this point.
Yeah, I mean, again, I am somebody who will defend the police to the hilt. Like, Mark Duggan, glad you shot him, a wrong and off the streets, perfectly justifiable. There was a gun in that car. He was on his way to go and threaten someone with a gun. There are other convictions related to this, where people have been convicted for going off and buying the gun because they wanted to go and threaten someone and possibly kill someone. I'm sorry. I want to thank the police officer that shot him. I do. The police officers who on 21/7/2005, so 2 weeks after the 7/7 attacks in which 52 people died, when they were told that a Brazilian man, John Michel Menendez, when they thought, because they got wrong information from useless senior coppers, that this man in a puffer jacket going into a tube station possibly had a bomb on him, and they thought that he was going to blow innocent people up on the tube. When they followed him into that tube station, they got on that tube carriage and they shot him point blank in the head. Those guys were also heroes. Now, they got the wrong man. It wasn't their fault they got the wrong man. They were absolute heroes of mine. I will defend the police doing a horribly difficult job every day of the week. At the point when the man was lying on the ground, face down, after being tasered, he was no longer a threat. You cannot kick him and you cannot stamp on his head. I don't see that there's anything to debate about this.
No, I don't, and I think we expect our police to be better. It was a really tough situation. They'd seen their colleagues injured, but it doesn't give you the right to go into revenge mode.
Well, let's have a watch and listen of what Richard Tice, the Reform UK deputy leader and MP, of course, had to say. And again, I know Richard very well. We're good friends. We had quite a row last night about this. Unfortunately, he cannot come on the show today. He's busy, you know, being an MP. Fair enough. But let's look at what he had to say on Jeremy Kyle's show last night.
But I think, based on what I've heard and seen, that actually this is not distressing. This is reassuring. The simple answer is that if the police had had to use tasers, which at least 2 officers, if not 3, clearly had, then there is a serious issue going on. Police officers don't use tasers unless they are genuinely concerned for the safety of members of public and themselves. And bearing in mind, these are weapons-carrying officers who are there to prevent acts of terrorism, making split-second judgments. They have quite rightly concluded that safety is the better option. And they don't know whether these people have got grenades under their bodies.
Completely.
They've got people around wearing loose clothing.
Listen, Richard,
Jeremy, this is not distressing.
Look, I mean, it is distressing, and I'm sorry, I don't find it reassuring, and I completely disagree with Richard Tyson on this, because his argument is that, look, these could have been terrorists, we don't know what was going on. I mean, I'm sorry, if you thought the guy had a bomb, you know, shoot him in the head, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was a violent incident. These people absolutely, from what we can understand of the incident, were violently resisting arrest from police officers. Well, I'm sorry, at that point, it's game over in terms of I'm happy for force to be used by those police officers. If police officers getting injured, 3 of them, 1 or female police officers getting a broken nose, I'm sorry, I've got, no issue with the police going in and using necessary force. But there was no question of this being a terrorist incident. No one had raised this spectre. No. We cannot treat every time there's some sort of a disturbance, outside a nightclub. Well, they could have a bomb, so let's stamp on their heads.
I don't think there is any justification for it at all, and it was surprising that Richard Tice said that.
He got a lot of support for saying it.
He did say, and that's what I find a bit sort of I can't quite understand. You can hold the position that you support the police, but you think this incident was incorrect. I don't see the difficulty, but the amount of abuse you get for holding that position on social media is horrendous.
Well, it's interesting, actually, because, I mean, in our exchanges, Richard, quite rightly, as you often say, as I do, I'm an armchair general, I've not been out there, I'm not dealing with frankly, I'm not dealing with the scum, let's face it, that police officers have to deal with every day. No, I'm sorry, they are dealing with people, I'm not saying these people are, but every day dealing with people, drunks, drug addicts, people who are abusive, who spit on them, and the provocation, I don't think most of us could put up with it, frankly. I really don't. I'd last 5 minutes before I was frankly stamping on someone's head, which is why I shouldn't be a police officer, which is why we train police officers, and especially armed police officers. However, I've got 2 very good friends who are police officers, got I think probably 50 years on the streets between them. They know what they're talking about, and I ran it by them. I said, I need to know, what do you think? And they both went, beyond, way beyond what would be acceptable, and no question. Now, this man has now been suspended. There were demonstrations, protests, 200 people outside Rochdale police station, some shouting, GMP, shame on you. Now, there were some calls for people to, stay calm, even from local imams. Even if, because this has happened, it doesn't justify any violence. It was a peaceful protest. People have a right to peacefully protest. But again, you get into this situation because of the colour of the police officers, because of the supposed ethnicity or religion of those involved, who were perpetrators, alleged perpetrators, and now one victim. But also an alleged perpetrator. Why did they taser him to the ground? What was the need for that in the first place? Let's not talk about this person as some sort of passerby who's just wandered into the fray and been kicked in the head. And yet, it instantly becomes a culture war.